computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello, hello. Audio check. Mic check. Testing the audio levels. Mic check, mic check. Just checking the audio. Okay, so I'm just gonna check the audio levels with the video playing.
This is our $500 Civic, and we've already slammed about $10,000
All right.
worth of parts into it. But guess what?
This is
It's still
not
slow
going to
as
be what
heck.
I'm watching. I'm
So
just
what are we
testing
gonna do
things.
about it?
All right, so here we go. This is the official first Indigo at Night stream. Did a test stream a few days ago, see how everything was set up. Hopefully the audio and all that's still working correctly. But yeah, basically just kind of want to chill, check out some videos on YouTube. If there's any discussion that comes up, you know, be able to just kind of look, do some reading, hanging out with the chat if anybody shows up. But yeah, so nothing major. Like I kind of picture it being similar to one of my commentary videos where, you know, hey, we'll talk about some stuff, except for in real time. So put a little music back on in the background. Make sure everything's running smooth. could actually be kind of neat to check out. Yeah, some gaming related stuff, maybe some trailers. That actually sounds interesting. Saving FPS games, AI anti-cheat, because that's actually kind of a big thing for me. I play Call of Duty Warzone a lot, and unfortunately, there is, crossplay with PC invites a lot of cheating. It feels like it's a lot harder to do that on consoles. So when you open it up to PC, you kind of invite that a little bit more, and it's a lot more rampant than people think. I've had a lot of times where I'll get killed by somebody in Warzone, and I'll spectate their camera, and you'll just see them tracking people like through walls that there's no way they know exactly where they are, and their gun is like, pinpoint focus on them, and that, well, this is a PC player and they're using some sort of cheating mechanism. And I hate that because it kind of calls into question the legitimacy of like everything that happens. But yeah, so if you jump in chat, you want to say hi, if you have anything to discuss, comments, anything, please feel free. This, like I said, is my first time officially doing the stream, and the interaction will definitely help things out, and I would just kind of love to talk with people anyways. Also, any feedback on performance and sound and all that is extremely useful. So I'm going to pause this. I think I'm going to open up with this because I'm kind of interested if there is a way to help out playing FPS games online. It would be nice to know.
So you think you know Wix?
I'm going to go ahead and mute this ad here. My last stream, if anybody does arrive or watches this after the fact, I was talking about or joking about copyright claiming. It did end up getting copyright claimed because I used some Monster Cat audio at the end. It took it about 12 hours, but the claim did appear. So I'm hoping the DMCA free and copyright free music for Twitch streamers thing here is legitimate, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm not monetized. I probably won't be for a long time. So if it just helps the stream sound good, then we'll roll with it. But anyways, let's check out this video, see what we got going on here.
1 out of every 3 players in an online FPS game are cheating.
He's wiggling. Look.
I believe it.
PS5, it's literally just connecting to the remote play.
And then in other games, it's way more than that.
What does this revelation mean for the future of gaming in general?
So it's an AI aimbot?
Yeah, AI and
Works in any game.
They sell these by the millions.
And it's not just your little brother either. At every level of the industry, from pros to streamers, cheating is rampant.
And it will become a real job to cheat in his game. It's a full-fledged business.
Are you getting old?
Yeah.
Is gaming changing? Or is it that rampant cheating is not fun?
Over a year ago, we set out to use AI with one goal in mind: saving FPS games. We're ready for you to submit your clips to help train our model. What you're about to witness in this video
See what he said there. That's actually kind of interesting because I might roll it back here, but if you were listening, you just heard him talking about like, are you just aging? Are you getting old? What's going on here? Are your skills declining, basically? And the fact is, skills do decline with age, especially when it comes to like high speed FPS and things like that. However, if 1 in 3 people online is cheating, is that part of what's going on for you? Are you encountering a lot of cheating and it makes you feel like you're just not as good? Now, there could definitely be some coping going on there for older players or people who just, don't have those skills or don't keep them in practice. But still, it is an issue.
is the solution. The solution to cheating in online gaming. To help fund this project through the form of sponsoring this video is Opera GX. They agreed the more views and downloads Opera GX gets through this video, the more funding that will go to the project, straight up. So just by being here, you are helping. Thank you. As you guys know, I download a lot of sus bus programs.
Individual
It's opening very fast.
And sometimes my network will just be getting used.
Like my browser's sending Bitcoin
Okay, bro,
to the ether. I
I
don't know. I'm
feel
scared.
like I'm
Well,
gonna
what I can
skip
do in the
your
AutoGX control thing
ad here,
is
unfortunately.
So let me be straight up with you guys. Let me just come clean, okay? I have done steroids. I've never told anyone this. I've never really explained it this way, but I did steroids, or at least I
No
thought
way.
for sure they were steroids. So when I was 14,
He
I
thought they
wanted
were
to be
steroids.
jacked out of my mind, man. I wanted to look like a bunch of rocks saran wrapped together and be able to like bench press a car. And in
Well, that's a
combination
weird
with that desire,
set of
my
imagery.
frontal lobe was the size of a walnut. So I got on eBay, I typed in steroids, bought something sketchy, got shipped from China, and then I ingested it. No one ever found out. I wasn't thinking about the consequences. So I'm sitting there playing SOCOM Confrontation with the itchiest nipples you've ever seen, man. And I was real confused. I thought I was gonna start like lactating. Even though no one's ever found out until now, I didn't actually get away with it because the consequences were that I didn't know with certainty that I wasn't going to start growing lady parts.
My nipples were itchy, man.
Point is, you can take a shortcut to something, but there will be a consequence somewhere, somehow, eventually. What those consequences will look
Well, besides consequences, I'm sure he's going to cover a lot of things here. We got But besides consequences, you know, getting banned or reputation or whatever it is, where's the fun? Like, is it even fun? Do people actually have fun when they play an online FPS or any online game and they use some form of cheating? Because, I mean, without the incentive to be good at something, you kind of lose, like, the point of playing the game. And if you could just kind of beat everybody easily, then why?
look like, I think is now up to us somewhat. So cheating in online FPS games is the worst it's ever been ever right now. On every system,
Thanks,
console
PC.
included, at every level, around 30% of players in any given game are cheating.
So this is basically the final form of the AI cheats that single-handedly killed FPS games about a year ago. This program essentially acts as like a mediator between remote play and the game.
All it uses is a live stream of your game. So as long as you have an internet connection that's like 2 megabytes per second.
One, it enables mouse and keyboard on console, but what's worse is you can essentially plug in an AI aim assist.
It can use AI to read the screen, find the enemies, send input back to whatever system you're using, console included, and then aim at the enemy for you.
So it's basically just acting as your remote play controller.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Right,
nuts.
and
To get
I'm
access
assuming
to it.
detect
The
people
God
through
League,
walls?
He went in and he infiltrated this website. He made the cheaters love him. He convinced them to like him so that they would give him the cheat. It took months. I'm just kidding. He paid $5. So for a few bucks or a free
I actually
version
was
that
kind of
comes with
buying that
virus,
at
You can
first.
pretend you're better than everyone else. This can never be detected by an anti-cheat scanning what's running on the system, because all of this is running only off of watching the game the same way you do.
So this is an 8-person free-for-all where all of us have cheats installed and one person is chosen at random to enable their cheats, but no one knows who it is. And we're all trying to guess who's the person that has cheats enabled.
Someone's a hacker right now?
Yep.
Someone's a hacker.
Someone should be, at least.
Let's go.
Bro, that's not even
Two back-to-back
fun. Like, what?
Yeah, man. I'm cracked out of my mind. Keep in mind, we have a point system going here, and we're trying to not get detected as the hacker by the other players.
Okay. It's kind of cool.
Also, these are the devs that are so graciously donating their time to work on the Waldo project for all of us. I'm linking the Waldo Discord and a few other things. Go give them a big thank you.
Like, it's not even... You're not even playing at that point. That's crazy.
So take a look at the footage. See if you can guess which one of these angles is someone using aim assist.
I'm gonna say
I'm thinking homeless, honestly.
bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you too.
Oh, dude, that's a bad idea,
Yeah.
boys. I just left this part in so you guys would know it wasn't me and that I'm just cracked out on my To be honest, dude, I just had to double check to make sure they were off. I'm just saying. So make your guess. You're left with a 1 in 3 chance of getting it correct. The answer will be
Okay.
at the end of the video and in the description.
I definitely
One is
thought it
you
was
can't
Mr.
tell.
Homeless.
And if you got lucky, there was a 1 in 3 chance, kid. That's how likely it is to run into a cheater if you play one game today. But what we
Dang.
can't see, an AI can, with certainty.
To our human
And then imagine, I mean, you're in a lobby with however many other people can be in a match, 8 players, or if you're playing like me, I play Warzone. So in Warzone, you're talking 100, 150, however many. Now you're not going to encounter all of those people, but still, if it's 1 in 3, like that's like 25 players, or sorry, that's like 30 players in a 100-player lobby. That's a lot if you think about it. Oh no, I hit the wrong button.
When you're launching a new product with a tight
1 out of every 3 players in an online FPS.
Dang it, where were we? Okay, here we go.
Got lucky, there was a 1 in 3 chance, kid. That's how likely it is to run into a cheater if you play one game today. But what we can't see, an AI can, with certainty.
To our human eyes, this just looks like really good aim.
They're
Right.
designed to have smoothing and look natural, look like human aim.
But to a trained AI, the difference is night and day. The best way to
Jesus.
describe it is like having a trained medical physician try and tell the difference between someone that's really
Yeah,
jacked
that's
on steroids.
I'm
and then,
sorry,
like, a
that's kind of
dog.
obvious in the
There's
first
no
place, but
mistaking it. Couldn't just a really advanced AI cheat go undetected with lots of human data? No, this is a permanent solution to end the cat and mouse forever, and I will explain why I'm getting there.
A lot of people asked, what about ESP?
Okay. What would you say is the most distinguishable trait to tell if someone's
like
cheating
because
based
like
on
they
your
say that the
experience
AI
and,
can catch it and stuff
like,
too,
the
but I'm sorry, when
antagonism
you're
of the game?
in real time. Doing a little bit of audio adjustment on the fly.
I mean, there are a
But yeah,
lot of
in
things.
real
This
time,
is
and you
Goat,
play these things a
aka
lot,
Tim.
you'll
He
see
wanted
it.
to know
You'll see it
just
for
how many
yourself that
people were
it's
cheating in
cheating.
Tarkov. So he installed cheats with the intentions of finding the cheaters.
Kill to death ratio, what gun they have out, how much ammo they have, everything with his cheat. Game sense is something that is a really big deal in a game like Tarkov. How to move around the map, where to look, how to set up your gun.
So what is it that he used to distinguish if someone was cheating or not?
I can't believe it.
No. Before the wiggle, as funny as that is.
This duo was the highest KD that I came across that I think was legit. If you looked at them on the radar, they were just constantly
I
looking
definitely
around.
wouldn't
The
want to play
little things were
Tarkov
just
against
going
cheaters,
everywhere.
but
And they were
it's
checking
on PC,
areas where just
so
no one was there. It's painfully clear that these two Chads are legit. How refreshing. And then you'd watch these other guys that have like 20-something KD, just running straight into a building, straight to a jacket to get their item, straight out.
like they just don't even
Straight
care.
a different way. And when you looked around that area on the map, there was nobody that could
Wow.
kill.
And they just already knew that, so they didn't have to look around.
He was looking at human behavior. Do we know of anything that can kind of detect human behavior?
I don't know. Is there any technology out there that can kind of look at human
What's up,
behavior
Traveler?
and see if it's human
The
or
cringe
not? I
button
don't
and
know,
nobody can
guys,
stop.
I don't know.
There is
That's great. I'm pushing the cringe button. I like it. I can see it. Yeah, right now I'm just kind of watching a video about AI anti-cheat. It was just kind of something I came across on the main screen. So along with that, I'm messing around with things like audio settings and all that, just trying to make sure everything sounds good,
Extremely
so that you can hear the
distinguishable
video and hear
behavior
me if I
between someone
talk
using
over
cheats
it.
and someone not using cheats.
Because
So
also
we thought
apparently if I
instead
plug
of just
my
aim
earbuds
cheats,
into my
what
computer,
about an AI
it
that can
lowers
detect
the
everything?
audio to
An
the stream
AI
feed.
that
So I had to
analyzes
adjust for
player
that.
behavior and determines if they're cheating based on how they're interacting with the game with over 99% accuracy.
This is what will save FPS games.
Now I realize that that sounds like a pipe dream, like an impossible solution that's years away, another hopeless dream of one-day gaming with no cheaters online,
And here's the twist. It already exists. Someone made it. And it wasn't us.
For days, I was tearing my hair out.
Why is this not in every single game?
What is going on? I had so many theories.
Game developers don't need good anti-cheat. Everyone keeps playing. Cheating in games, this whole other industry, is stimulating the game. As a game dev, why would you stop it?
There is technically financial reward for them if the cheaters keep buying accounts.
AI anti-cheat exists. Game devs are not using it.
Luckily, the truth was the simplest answer.
FPS games as well as Sea of Thieves have some huge aimbot problems. It has made some otherwise amazing games unplayable, especially bad on PC or cross-platform. And Sea of Thieves, I actually I haven't played it in a long time, but there definitely was some issues there. And again, this is almost always when you have cross-platform between different games. I do understand that it's useful, you know, when you need to have a player base and you want to keep it healthy so that somebody who jumps into a game on console, there's people to play with, and it encourages people to keep playing on console. But yeah, when I play Warzone and people track me through walls like X-ray vision, it's not very fun. But yeah, it does actually ruin a lot of games. But they're saying that there's also some financial incentive to not even truly get rid of it. Like they'll act like they are, and they'll implement these punishments and stuff. But sometimes there is financial incentive to allow cheating to occur.
And just this year, early January 2023, we started to implement it in big games. And so it's starting from now. It's happening as we speak.
This is the CGO and CEO of AnyBrain, the AI anti-cheat that detects everything. How does it distinguish between someone that is say, using like an ESP in a game versus someone that isn't?
What we do is every player is providing data about how it is possible to perform the games. Let's say you have a reaction time when you find an opponent and you move to there. There is different cognitive skills that we apply when we are playing a game.
Yeah.
At what we can extract from these behaviors is these cognitive
like
skills that are
study
on
group,
a specific moment. They are not human.
So it's learning constantly. Is that okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what percentage of people would you say are cheating in some form?
We always start with a very high threshold, meaning that we do not necessarily catch everybody, but everybody that we're catching, we're 100% sure. We usually see between maybe 10, 15, 20% of players that are cheating. We are fairly certain that the phenomenon is much higher than that. And again, that's why we created, Andre created AnyBrain.
My kind of estimation based on a bunch of different numbers was around 30%. Are using something to
even
improve.
20%. Like that's a lot of people.
We're thinking along the same lines here.
And they're under NDA, so they couldn't tell me exactly which game, but they had data to back up these claims.
Every time we catch somebody cheating, what we need also is multiple moments that have a very high probability of being somebody using a namebot. So a pro will have very few of these moments because they are just very good, right?
Yes.
But in order for us to make that validation actually get flagged of you using, let's say, a namebot in a game, that means that we would make moves that have a very, very high probability of being aimbots and doing that multiple times.
So let's say hypothetically, I'm only using a very small amount of humanized aim assist. Is this something that you think your system would be able to
that's
detect?
their estimation is 10 to 20%. But the guy who authored this video, they apparently they have the data to back up that it's 1 in 3, it's 30%. So like my example was like if you're playing a really big online game, like like Call of Duty Warzone, like say there's 100 people, that means like 30 of those people are going to be cheating somehow. That's crazy, you know. And no wonder sometimes it's hard to break into certain levels, top 20, top 10 sometimes. And then at the end of the game, if any of those people survived and they're the majority of players left, and you're not a cheater, you're kind of screwed.
The difference is on human eye, it's almost impossible to catch, but the way we interact is still impossible to make it as a human.
Can you expound a little maybe, or maybe help me understand just a little better?
Yeah, well, let's say that you are just adjusting a few pixels.
Yeah.
The way you move with this adjustment, it will be not natural.
Because even mouse and keyboard shouldn't be able to do that.
Human, but on pixel level, but also on these patterns, it is not human. So that's why we can catch it. People say, "Oh, he was cheating." I'm sure because it is impossible to aim on that way. Sometimes it's just lucky, or you are really good. So it's difficult for people to understand, and there is a lot of false claims about he was cheating or no, because he's so good player, it's impossible. But
that's not the kind of thing I see and think is cheating.
Level we can understand this.
After a few hours of gameplay of someone using a humanized aim assist, it would be able to detect that that's happening.
The usual behaviors, like let's say somebody using an aimbot on Warzone, actually real time plus 5 minutes in order to flag somebody who is using that.
They were saying earlier that it is possible. There's more people cheating on console than you think. However, I still think that's probably the minority of cheaters compared to PC. It's a lot easier there. And they gave a good example of how they do it on console. So it is possible there, but just not as easy and not nearly as common.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really cool.
Also, Halo Infinite just eventually isn't very fun.
I was in a dream. Like I was gonna wake up and tell Olivia that I had a dream that someone made the AI anti-cheat that solved everything.
And this will happen in the coming months. We are fairly confident that something's gonna happen, something's gonna click in this year.
But it got even better.
2 hours is to create the player profile
for what we call identity frauds.
What they're talking about is a biometric profile, a profile as distinguishable as your thumbprint or your face.
So this will need the baseline of 2 hours because it's unique to each and every one of us as gamers.
That's
on how
crazy.
You play the game. This means that once you get banned, it's not as simple as creating another account. If you create another account, the AI detects your biometric profile. Every account you make will be banned. There's no hardware ID, it's you. You will be permanently banned from the game with no chance of ever playing it again.
We're fairly confident that some things are about to change.
The implications of this are insane, especially if the game has a replay system.
If you have ever cheated and the data is saved server side, you are then able to be caught at any point in the future. If you cheat, you will be caught. It's just a matter of time.
It's like
the biometric fingerprint of a probe.
It's like the stuff that's scary about AI but made useful.
Player or streamer could be seen on an alt account that was hacking a year ago or last week or currently. Now, I don't know if these things will be done with this data, but I can tell you that FPS games, all online multiplayer games, are saved. Now, the Waldo project is different. It plans to put this power of knowing in your hands. A way to know if any player is cheating simply by scanning the gameplay footage, laying bare the truth, and leaving the effects up to us. We now confirm it's possible and in fact need your help to make it a reality. A full technical update of the Waldo project is available on Rican Samurai's channel.
I think the glory days of online FPS games are not behind us, but are ahead of us. And if you're one of the
I mean, it certainly would make a lot of it more fun.
Games, I got one question for you. Are your nipples getting itchy?
That was a reference to some crap from earlier in the video. That's really cool though, because obviously there's a lot of things that we're worried about AI and what it's going to be used for. But if it means that we can permanently track cheaters across all platforms and games and profiles, and then okay, I'm good with that.
Just passing through.
Good video. What is this guy? Basically homeless. Never heard of him.
Imagine using a printer as a...
Pause that. Never heard of him, but he's got almost 2 million subscribers with 120 views. Pfft. Could be interesting. Funny thing is, I don't actually watch a lot of this type of content on my own, so I feel like the streaming thing could make it so I'm more informed on some of these things.
1 out of every 3 players in
Let's
an
not
online
start the video again. There we go. But yeah, typically when I watch YouTube, I watch either DSP lolcow stuff or space videos, things like that, or music. So a lot of this is like kind of new for me. Speaking of space, actually, oh no, I'm gonna go back to the gaming section here, see what we got. See if there's any new trailers. Dark Souls, except it's incredibly cursed. technology is ethically neutral. It is those implementing it as a problem. Yeah, until it becomes sentient. I think I sent you that video the other day where they were talking about. Actually, I need to see how my audio sounds with the music playing again. Alright, so I just went and listened to the audio myself. It seems pretty good. How's it sound on that end? Yeah. Like a certain movie. I don't want to spoil Mission Impossible. You know what? Actually, let's go. Since we started with gaming, let's stick with gaming for a little bit. See what's going on in the world of Xbox news. Oh yeah, if anybody didn't know about that, Xbox Live Gold is going away. It will be converted to essentially like a core version of Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass. So it'll have the same access for multiplayer and all that sort of thing, but it will have like a kind of a really basic level Game Pass function, which is kind of cool. And then of course there's still Game Pass Ultimate, which is I think from what I've known, most people end up getting Ultimate, but yeah, here, let's pull that up. Microsoft starts testing. Microsoft starts testing its Xbox Live Gold replacement. So this will give us a little more info here. I am, in fact, in the alpha skip-ahead rings. Microsoft is starting to test Xbox Game Pass Core, its replacement for Xbox Live Gold. Xbox testers in the alpha and alpha skip-ahead rings will be able to preview Game Pass Core this week, providing their existing Xbox Live Gold members. Of course, if you already have Game Pass Ultimate, that's kind of irrelevant for you. But yeah, so what they're going to do is have a small catalog of 25 games. That's actually not too bad. 25 games. It'll still have the multiplayer support, deals and discount, and 25 games. So insiders will get access to Psychonauts 2, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, State of Decay 2, and Doom Eternal. That's not bad. Initially this week. And the full library will become accessible at launch on September 14th. Xbox Game Pass Core. Nova Starlight. Do you have Game Pass like regular or do you have Ultimate? Also, a price change come with it. Game Pass Ultimate has moved from $14.99 to $16.99. Honestly, that's perfectly fine. Game Pass Ultimate's always been very much worth the $15. It's also very much worth the $17. So, base Game Pass for console has been increased from $9.99 to $10.99, and is also discontinuing Game Pass Friends and Family plan. They may bring that back. Oh, yeah, and I always forget, too, that Game Pass is different on PC as well, so I'm not sure how that'll change. Because this is, I think, at the moment talking about console. It's always been cheaper for you guys on PC to get it anyways. And a lot of times get more games. Wait, what? Microsoft now sells Xbox controller replacement parts? I hate when these videos try to play in the background. And there we go. Alright, so, yeah. It is far too often the case that failed hardware components lead to unnecessary disposal, blah, 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 green stuff. Microsoft is now offering replacement parts and educational info for fixing tired and worn out controllers. That's kind of cool. Whether you call them controllers, gamepads. See, I don't think I've ever experienced stick drift. I know it was a big thing that Nintendo got sued for with the what the heck are the controllers for the Switch called? Joy-Cons. The Joy-Con stick drift. That was a big thing. But I don't... If I ever experienced it, it was probably like a long time ago on the 360 or something when I was playing the crap out of Gears of War. And really, really putting a beating on controllers. So... But yeah, so it says, as a result of wear and tear or debris stuck inside the controller's potentiometers. You know, that was the problem we had back in the day a lot more commonly than stick drift, I feel like. We had this problem on the 360, and it wasn't an issue with the controller itself. But Liquid could get into, like, the buttons. So if you unfortunately had a soda spill or anything like that, which, God forbid, why would you have a soda that could spill anywhere near your Xbox controller? But you could it would get into the buttons and they would get sticky. And like sometimes you wouldn't even know why, you know, but it had to be from like a soda or something like that. But you would have the buttons get a little sticky. And honestly, like, we were broke sometimes, but we were going to play Gears of War. So we just found a way to deal with it. Why did my Earth cat? So Cosmic Traveler here, he's playing Galactic Civilizations, and apparently his Earth capital spawned in Australia for some reason. Okay, so to go on with the story. Stick drift is a thing, apparently. You know, people deal with this where thumbstick output, you know, directional info, blah, 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 blah. Essentially, your sticks start drifting. Because gamers are from Planet Mountain. But anyways, so it looks like yeah, well, you can order replacement Xbox Elite Series 2 and wireless controller parts. So is this for regular controllers or just the Elite? Dang, you can get circuit boards, buttons, triggers, and shells, and even new analog sticks. That's pretty cool. So if you're kind of a DIY type person with your electronics, and that's cool. Showing folks how to actually open up and repair the devices. Bro, Xbox, I know there's going to be all kinds of gamers out there, but I swear Xbox is the most pro consumer gaming company out there right now. Right now, fixing drift analog sticks will set you back around $35 plus your labor and replacing said parts. That's around half the cost of a new controller. I mean, that's true. There's a lot of times where there's nothing else wrong with your controller. Of course, there's another... The main thing that I run into is that, granted, my controllers last a long time. I've had my Series X controller since launch. So, like, 3 years now. Right to repair. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. It may still invalidate the warranty, but I guess we'd have to see. But I've had my Series X controller since launch, which is basically like 3 years ago now, going on 4 years, and it still works absolutely fine. And I still have all the texture on the bottom for the controller grips. The buttons are all good. The triggers are great. Very, very good controller. But I am just now starting to notice some wear on the top of the thumbsticks where your little grippy part is. And so if it ever got to a point where I'm like, oh man, I need a new controller, I'm not going to do this. But I feel like in many cases there's a lot of people who would, and giving them the ability to buy a set of not drifting sticks, to buy a set of analog sticks and what they need to do to put it together, that's pretty cool. Because otherwise there's no reason to throw that controller away. I mean, I guess a lot of this stuff does get reused. I think maybe they're overplaying the waste part in the article, you know. Expensive purchase for you and more stuff sitting in landfills. This is actually kind of rare. A lot of the controllers, like if you decide to go buy a new controller, it just goes to the store. Like you go trade it in, and someone else who's like a brokey or whatever you want to call them, cheap, and they don't care, they just need that controller, they'll go buy it. But yeah, it's a nice option because again, a lot of times there's nothing wrong with the controller. It's just worn out a little bit. Spend that money, put it back in there, and there you go. That's pretty neat. Yeah, Gamescom's coming up. That's right. Oh, Xbox gamers can now stream directly to Discord. That's a neat feature. One of the reasons why I don't do a whole lot of game streams is because like I don't have a capture card, and I don't have I don't really want to do all this stuff to hook my Xbox to a PC and play the games, and I'm not going to play on PC. But I've streamed. I do have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/rivalindigo. I do have a Twitch channel, and occasionally I may want to play some Warzone or some Dead by Daylight on there. But it's nice to have another option. So like you can stream directly to Twitch. You could stream directly to, I think, like OBS or something like that. So I mean, I guess I could use OBS to do it, but having the option to directly stream to these things integrate is pretty neat. So that's coming to Xbox. If I win the lotto, I'm buying all my friends and family Xbox Elite 2 controllers, whether they want them or not. Best gaming product ever bought. So yeah, occasionally I've heard there being some issue with them, but then other people say that they're basically the best thing ever. So I don't know. That right there, Starfield and Forza Motorsport. So Xbox showcasing 30 games during Gamescom. Starfield, Forza, Stalker, and more. Gamescom's always been kind of a cool one. Like, almost like the after party to E3. When E3 was still a thing. Tower Bone. New game from Stoic. Elder Scrolls Online, don't care about that. Microsoft Flight Simulator. That, you know, for a game that's not like a game, a flight sim, it looks fantastic. Like it might actually be really fun. Payday 3. Downstream. Okay, so on the Elite 2 controllers, Cosmic Traveler says, me and my roommate both have them, and they've been perfect over a year of use. Lots of Sonic racing games and random. So, okay, yeah. So maybe it's just here and there. There's people that get a bad one or something. But yeah, so they've got Payday 3, Downstream. Don't remember what that is. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. That'll be cool. Phantom Liberty, the 2077 expansion. That's going to be sick. This is actually the reason why I haven't started a new playthrough in Cyberpunk, is because they said that along with this expansion, that there's going to be like a huge revamp for the game, and like how it plays and how you manage and all that. So when this expansion comes out, then I'm going to start a completely fresh replay of Cyberpunk 2077. Because regardless of what people say, I think this is a fantastic game. I put over 300 hours to it starting at launch, and I played it on Series X. And yes, was the game perfect? No. Was it missing things? Was there stuff I wanted to see that wasn't there? Yeah, but honestly, in overall, it was the closest thing to a Cyberpunk Bethesda. Not I think Bethesda's a little different, but just such a huge, expansive world with so much going on and so much to do, set in this really awesome Cyberpunk universe. I just kind of took it for what it was and enjoyed it. So, but since then, there's been massive updates to the game to improve performance and features and all that. So, I think it's a fantastic game and a good comeback story as well. But there will also be Spotlight, Persona 5 Tactics. That looks really cool. I love tactical strategy games. SteamWorld Build. Stalker 2. That one actually, this one's been hanging around for a few years. Don't care about this stuff. Nintendo will also be there. Okay. Well, that didn't tell us a whole lot. That was kind of a waste of time. They don't really tell you a whole lot about it, but yeah, basically a bunch of cool games will be at Gamescom from Xbox. It got overly ambitious, therefore had bugs. It happened. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I feel like, in my opinion, if like the ambition was fine, the game was definitely, it was like 7 years that we knew about it. It had to have existed before there in some production stage. But I think the biggest thing that hurt it was trying to make sure that they could include previous generation consoles. The PS4 and Xbox One should never have gotten Cyberpunk, at least not till later. It should have been, let's focus completely on next generation hardware and PC, make the game as good as possible performance-wise and feature-wise, and then later we could possibly have a third party, or second party or whatever, bring this game down to the level for Xbox One and PS4. That's how it should have been. But because they were worried about sales and they were worried about making back the very large amounts of money that they spent to make the game, they were trying to get it onto as many platforms as possible. Understandable. It's, a business. They have a financial thing to worry about. But I think that was what hurt it the most, was it wasn't optimized very well for anybody because they were trying to make sure that everybody could access the game. Like this. Yeah, like Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That came out as a current generation game only, and look at that. It's now coming to PS4 and Xbox One. So anybody who's still hanging on to their last gen consoles, they'll still get a chance to play it. Well, this seems to be kind of a big deal. I mean, it's pretty cool, but they keep coming back to this idea that the Series S is a problem for devs, and then I think it's a remote problem. Typical summer though, the news for gaming is not going to be huge, probably until Gamescom hits. Then we'll see a lot more, obviously. But even then, like I said, Gamescom is oftentimes like the after show for E3 for the summer game news, and we're still adjusting to a world without E3. So Gamescom is mostly going to be rehashed material from earlier in the summer with a few things thrown in here and there. If people aren't willing to upgrade consoles, they're just pores. That's hilarious. I mean, there was still people, gosh, a couple years ago now, that were still playing Xbox 360, playing Call of Duty on Xbox 360. So there are definitely people who hang on for it, because some people just have no real need. They don't have a need to upgrade. And that's what I like about consoles, especially these days, is for the most part, they're going to continue to get support, like online connections and things like that, and you can just keep playing whatever you got, you know? And yeah, I think it was a few years ago, probably about 2020, but still, when you think about, we were about to launch the series consoles and the PS5, so the Xbox One and PS4 generation was basically over at that point. And I remember I was working at a different restaurant, and one of my coworkers, she was talking about how she still played, like, it was like Black Ops 2 or 3 or something like that on 360 all the time. I was like, what? You're still playing on 360? I mean, that's cool, but damn. Yeah, the 360 was, you know, obviously people are going to point out the Red Ring of Death, but the 360 really was a badass console. A godly console. Just in, like, I've never seen a console in any, you know, before or after, even now, that fostered community so much among the people who played it. So it was, if anything, it was great for that. This all looks like the kind of stuff my brother sits and watches. We talked about video games for a while now. I think I'm gonna find something space related. Let's see. See, I have a hard time watching space videos, even though I love them. I love anything regarding cosmology, astronomy. The PS3 fostered a community of having no games. That's I mean, it's actually true. Like, the PS3 started out with, like, kind of nothing going on and being extremely expensive in comparison. And coming out a year after the 360, people, you know, there's an advantage to being the first to market with your console. There's disadvantages too. Like, obviously the next consoles can, like, update and have different hardware and stuff. But you do get that time where you are the only new thing on the market that people buy, and the 360 had that, and had, you know, great games. Like, out the gate, they had some great games. You know, you could play Oblivion on the 360, and I'm sorry, I think Perfect Dark Zero was a good game, but you could play Oblivion. I think Final Fantasy, what was it, 12 was playable on 360 at the time. And then going into the end of the first year, when the PS3 and Nintendo Wii launched, you had Gears of War launch, which was a huge hit. And then the following summer, you had Halo 3. And in between, you had like Forza games. You had a lot of really good third-party games as well launched at that time. Like, 2007 is one of the greatest years in gaming history, I think. I think if I remember right, you had like Assassin's Creed, you had BioShock, you had Halo 3. Yeah, Perfect Dark Zero was better than most people give it credit for. It wasn't what they wanted at the time, which is a problem with a lot of things. But yeah, that was a great era in gaming, and we just haven't really seen anything similar since. So let's move on to space. Just kind of go through things that I find interesting. Start with some gaming, we'll go to space, and you know how long I go. Might switch subjects again later. But I have a hard time watching a lot of space content, even though I love it, because I sit and I want to argue with it all the time. Recently, the big thing for me is like stuff like the age of the universe and redshift and all that. And thankfully, there was some stuff that came out about. And I talk about it in my podcast, Weekly Takes, which comes out every Sunday evening. Last week's episode, I talked about, you know, how there was a study that was done, and to make sense of why there was highly developed galaxies so early on in the formation of the universe, you have to essentially expand the timeline. And so the new estimations based on the theories this guy came up with are that it's like 26.7 billion years old, almost twice as old, which in my mind makes a lot more sense. But anyways, it leads to me having conflicts, mostly by myself, yelling at my TV when I watch these like science videos. Either way, I find them interesting. Anton Petrov here has pretty informative videos, and I like to check them out.
This is Dave.
This is Dave. We don't care.
Quite a few things that make the solar system and planet Earth quite unique. For example, the way that the planets are arranged, the types of planets present in the solar system, the structure and composition inside of them, or when it comes to planet Earth, its relatively high density, its very active plate tectonics, and the ability to recycle everything after millions of years. And based on many different studies, it's sort of been established that, for the most part, a lot of these features seem to have been established as a result of a lot of early activity in the first few millions of years as Earth was developing and as the solar system was finalizing its structure. And one thing that seems to be really strange in the solar system, at least when it comes to terrestrial planets, is the fact that all of the planets here have somewhat layered interiors, with a solid core topped by a rocky mantle and a thin crust on top. All terrestrial planets in the solar system seem to have similar structures, but obviously Earth is a little bit more advanced and a little bit more active. But intriguingly, that's not what we kind of expect from many different terrestrial planets in different parts of the galaxy. As a matter of fact, for planets like the ones in the TRAPPIST-1 system, some simulations have even suggested they might have
This is where I start
more
having
core
issues with
and
some of
might
these
be
videos. Is like, okay, cool, I understand simulations and how much we can expand our knowledge or, you know, theories about things using simulations, but in the end we also just don't know. Like, we really don't know. We're not there, we're not making the measurements, we don't have a satellite in orbit. We're literally looking at a spectrum of light from a planet, and then beyond that we're making guesstimates of the mass of these things and how fast they're orbiting other stars and all this stuff, and taking all of these theories and guesstimates and using that to say, oh, this is what those planets are like, when we have no clue. We don't know.
Somewhat uniformly. And all of this really depends on one thing: the starting conditions in the early star system, and more importantly, the amount of heat generated in a lot of these very early planets. Or to be more specific, enrichment in a lot of highly radioactive compounds that produce a lot of heat. And specifically things like iron-60 or aluminium-26. Okay, I'm going to clarify all of this in a few seconds, but first, so what exactly are we going to be talking about? Yeah. Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and so today we're going to be discussing a potential resolution to the unusual mystery of aluminium-26 enrichment, the enrichment that we believe was responsible for making Earth the way it is. Or yet another factor that makes Earth kind of special, with the discovery in this case coming from a very beautiful molecular cloud approximately 2500 light years away from planet Earth. And so let's discuss this in a little bit more detail, but I guess once again, let's start with that mystery. So what exactly is the mystery here? Well, back in the days, a few decades ago, specifically back in 1976, scientists discovered an unusual meteorite pointing at aluminium-26 being present in the early solar system. And the thing about aluminium-26 is that it's an extremely radioactive element with an extremely short half-life. Its half-life is approximately 770,000 years, which means that within just a few million years, only traces of this element will remain. But because it's so radioactive and because it emits so much heat, Its presence in the early solar system actually explains why Earth and other terrestrial planets were able to get so extremely hot and thus differentiate, creating layers. Because without so much heat and the presence of these very highly radioactive elements, it's quite possible that Earth would have no core and no layers. And because aluminium-26 is a very short-lived element, all of this would happen really quickly, within just the first few millions of years, eventually only leaving traces behind and only signs of its existence from all of the elements that it basically decays into.
So it comes in, does its job, and then it's gone.
Signs of aluminium-26 were discovered pretty much everywhere in the Milky Way. And in this case, it actually shows us the results of various types of supernova, which usually produce huge amounts of this element, in essence allowing us to track where supernova happened. And it's actually because of these observations that today we know that in the entire Milky Way galaxy, there are only 2 to maybe 3 supernova every single century. And so it's the observations from aluminium-26 that allow us to measure everything, making it an excellent tracer.
See, that's the kind of stuff that I can get behind, like that makes sense.
But also for the presence of relatively ancient stars. We're going to discuss this in a few seconds. But because of these observations, it created a bit of a mystery. Was there actually aluminium-26 in the molecular cloud from which the solar system and planet Earth were initially created? The observations from those meteorites, and of course the observations from terrestrial planets, suggested so. But where did it actually come from? We don't really expect these large amounts of aluminium-26 to exist in a typical molecular cloud. And so some of the earlier explanations suggested that maybe there was a supernova very close to the solar system that essentially enriched everything in aluminium-26 and potentially created the solar system the way it is.
I'm pretty sure that's something we already knew about, right?
By becoming extremely hot, developing layers, and eventually even starting plate tectonics, all of which are sort of connected to the presence of aluminium-26. But there was a problem with that supernova explanation. If there was a supernova very close to the solar system as it was developing, what actually prevented the supernova from destroying everything and from completely destroying the planets and the early sun? Which basically resulted in a lot of counter-propositions, counter-arguments, and potential explanations for maybe other origins of this unusual element. Was maybe a supernova not the only way this could have formed? And is there maybe another way for the star system to be enriched in these extremely powerful elements in order to then form planets like planet Earth? And so here we really are talking about what made planet Earth so unique and what events led to its eventual formation and the properties that it currently has. Well, there was always this other idea that did not involve supernova, because there's at least one other way aluminium-26 can form as well. Here, it actually involves stars known as AGB, stars very similar to our Sun, or anywhere between half the mass of the Sun to maybe 8 solar masses, that go through a very specific type of evolution. We know that all of these stars will eventually become red giants. For massive stars, it usually happens relatively quickly. For stars like our Sun, it happens within about 10 billion years. Less massive stars can take longer. But unlike stars like Betelgeuse that are eventually going to go supernova, a typical AGB star instead is going to expel all of its outer shell, creating a relatively large cloud around itself, and then turn into a white dwarf. And that's of course the origin story.
So kind of like a non-violent supernova.
But right before planetary nebula become nebula, or before the white dwarf illuminates
obviously
all of the
minus
gas
the
around
super
it,
part,
making these beautiful formations, when a star is still a red giant, all of this is still basically just gas. But it turns out that this gas is highly enriched in a lot of elements that usually have a relatively short half-life. And as you might have guessed, one of these elements is aluminium-26. It turns out that evolved AGB stars, or stars that are going to become red giants and eventually white dwarfs, also produce quite a large amount of aluminium-26 and a few other radioactive elements. And so someone actually made this proposition that, okay, well, maybe
we essentially are passing through a bubble that indicates we might be near where a bunch of novas happen
within the actual molecular cloud. But not a lot of scientists agreed with this explanation, mostly because it just seemed kind of extremely unlikely. Basically, what's the chance that we're going to find this evolved AGB star right inside the molecular cloud where new stars are developing? Doesn't sound very likely and sounds a little bit far-fetched. Still, a pretty viable explanation, especially because then you don't have to explain why the planets were not destroyed. If the star was present nearby, it would enrich the system with the aluminium-26 by forming these very large clouds of highly radioactive elements, which would then basically be absorbed inside the planet, inside the star, and thus begin the cycle of formation of a very unique type of planets different from everything else. Although in this case, any other star system in the region would very likely receive the same. And so the basic premise was, what exactly created Earth the way it is, and where did all of this aluminium-26 come from? Or what caused the melting of all of the terrestrial planets in the solar system? And well, looks like once again we have our answers coming from the iconic ESA's Gaia telescope. Because once again the telescope was able to identify a very intriguing star in just the right location. Although here I think it's really important that I show you the beautiful images as well. This is taken by the European Southern Observatory.
Oh, we get to actually see it.
What you're looking at here is known as the NGC 2264, a molecular cloud containing a lot of beautiful formations like the Cone Nebula that almost resembles some kind of a monster, and the Christmas tree cluster that basically contains a lot of new stars. And that's of course very similar to other molecular nebula where we usually expect a lot of stars to form and that are usually known as the stellar nurseries. That's of course what created our sun as well. And it turns out that right inside this nebula, scientists discovered an evolved AGB star moving across.
Oh, I just had an alert for something. I think somebody subscribed. I guess I'm going to have to adjust that because it appeared like halfway in the screen here. Yep, I'm going to have to move the alert box. There we go. Let's put that. That will probably work better. All right, so whoever that was, thank you for subscribing. I'll have to check it later.
Very, very close to many different young stars. In other words, it's a star flying through the cloud, enriching everything in the cloud with all of these different elements that have very short half-lives, and thus, in some sense, creating conditions very similar to where the solar system was probably evolved as well. Implying, of course, that this is not as rare as anyone thought initially, and this is definitely happening right here as well. And so the extremely powerful stellar winds coming from these very powerful stars are actually going to enrich everything here in various elements that would be otherwise unavailable, thus potentially even allowing one of these stars to maybe form something similar to the solar system, including of course planet Earth. Although I'm sure that's just one of many properties that were required for the early Earth formation. Either way, this definitely shows us that all of these radioactive elements can come from other sources, not just supernova near stars, which would then provide heat to all of these early planets to differentiate and to create layers, and as we believe today, possibly even form plate tectonics. In this case, calculating the amount of elements that stars are probably receiving here, and essentially suggesting that quite a few of these stars have a relatively high chance to also be quite enriched in these radioactive elements. But the fact that this is the first such star discovered anywhere in any molecular cloud still makes this a pretty rare event. Naturally, there are quite a lot of molecular clouds in the entire galaxy, and quite a lot of them are also forming stars, but the elemental composition of these stars is most likely going to be very different from the solar system, and might not result in same terrestrial planets either.
Well, of course
Although
it won't, but like that's the thing that bothers me is how we say these things with such like certainty, and it's like, bro, there's like 200 billion stars in our galaxy. That like, there's no way we can know.
Stars formed from the same cloud as the sun.
It might be a pretty common thing.
It's still going to be somewhat difficult to establish all of the factors. Nevertheless, this is a really, really exciting discovery when it comes to understanding the evolution of the solar system, and it's definitely a discovery many scientists studying the solar system are going to be discussing for years to come. Mostly because it confirms that red giant stars could very well be responsible for making Earth the way it is, and even making the sun the way it is. Quiet, not particularly active, maintaining stable conditions for billions of years. But we'll talk more about these similar discoveries in future videos as well. On that note, check out some of the previous videos on similar topics. Thank you for watching, subscribe, share this with someone who loves learning about space and science.
I mean, it's pretty cool. I think a lot of it's stuff that we, in some way, basically already knew. that when you have these like nova events or supernova, but like in this case like a non-violent event that can seed a solar system or a forming solar system with the elements it needs to build planets and have life and have like the systems we have. Like we kind of already knew that, but it's nice to see some like confirming information here. So the new subscriber was Zage Wolf. I had to go check it on my profile because I didn't have my alert in the right position there. So, but that's fixed now. That's kind of an interesting pause point. Speaking of 26.7 billion years, that's what I want to go to. I want to find a good video on that. Of course, I like I said, I watch a lot of this content, and some of the channels are just annoying. They use these clickbait, they end up being clickbait headlines, and they bring in normies, and then they don't tell them anything. But I think I actually watched one of these top videos. It might have been the NASA Space News one. Okay. Let's see if one of these will explain it. Basically, I want something that's going to kind of explain what's going on with the theory.
Did you know that some of the objects we see in the sky are older than the universe itself? How is that possible? Well, it turns out that our current estimate of the age of the universe may be wrong. Very wrong.
Correct.
In fact, a new study suggests that our universe is twice as old as we thought, and that changes everything we know about its history and evolution. In this video, we will explore this shocking discovery and what it means for our understanding of the cosmos. We will also look at some of the mysteries and puzzles
only shocking
that led
if you already
scientists to question
believed
the age of the universe in the
that
first
the universe
place,
was
and how they used a
13.7
new
billion years
model
old,
to solve them.
which
So
in
buckle
many
up
ways
and get
just
ready
didn't
for a
make sense
journey
before.
through time and space as we reveal how old our universe really is. The age of the universe is one of the most fundamental questions in cosmology. It tells us how long the universe has been expanding since the Big Bang, the colossal explosion that created everything we see today. For decades, scientists have been using two main methods to estimate the age of the universe. The first one is based on measuring the rate of expansion of the universe, known as the Hubble constant. By observing how fast galaxies are moving away from us, we can calculate how long it took them to reach their current positions, and thus how long ago the Big Bang happened. The second method is based on studying the oldest stars in the universe, which are found in ancient globular clusters. By measuring their brightness and color, we can estimate their age and infer the minimum age of the universe. Using these methods, scientists have agreed on a value of about 13.8 billion years for the age of the universe,
But the
with an
methods were
uncertainty of
wrong.
about 20 million years. This value is consistent with various observations and models of cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the leftover heat from the Big Bang that fills the entire sky. However, there are some problems with this value. Some problems that have been bothering astronomers for a long time and challenging our current theories and assumptions about the universe. These kinds of problems make us wonder if we are missing something big. One of these problems is that some stars and galaxies seem to be older than the universe itself. That's right, older than 13.8 billion years.
The Methuselah
For
star.
example, one star in our own galaxy, called Methuselah, has an estimated age of 14.5 billion years, which is clearly impossible if the universe is younger than that. But Methuselah is not alone. There are many other stars and galaxies that appear to be too old for our current estimate of the age of the universe, and the James Webb Space Telescope has just recently discovered some of them. One of JWST's first discoveries was a group of galaxies that were around just 300 million years after the Big Bang, which is less than 3% of the current age of the universe. These galaxies are not only very old, but also very small and compact, with diameters of only a few thousand light-years, compared to the Milky Way's diameter of about 100,000 light-years. They are so unusual and unexpected that they have been dubbed the impossible early galaxies, because they seem to contradict our current theories about how galaxies form and evolve.
Which means
how
the
did these
theories are
galaxies
probably
become
wrong.
so small, dense, and active in such a short time? And how did they survive the harsh conditions of the early universe, such as the intense radiation and the frequent
mean the
collisions
universe
with
is
other
legal?
galaxies?
By a few years, probably. I
Some
guess this is
researchers
like the
have claimed
equivalent
that
of
these
us
kinds
checking its
findings
ID.
are in fact mistakes. But what if these discoveries are not anomalies or errors? What if they are telling us something important about our universe? What if our universe is much older than we think? This is exactly what a new study by Rajendra Gupta, a physicist from the University of Ottawa, proposes. In
I
his
am now a
paper
fan of this
published in
guy.
Physical Review D in November 2021, Gupta claims that our universe is not 13.8 billion years old, but 27 billion years old. That's right, twice as old as we thought. How did he come up with this number? Well, he challenged some of the assumptions and methods that we use to calculate the age of the universe, and introduced some new ideas based on existing
that's
theories.
science. That's
One
how
of his
you
main
do
arguments
science.
is that we have been misinterpreting the redshift of light from distant galaxies. Redshift is the phenomenon that happens when light from an object moving away from us stretches towards the red end of the light spectrum. By measuring this redshift, we can estimate how fast the object is moving away from us and how far away it is. This is how we determine the rate of expansion of the universe, and hence its age. But Gupta says that redshift is not only caused by the motion of galaxies, but also by the loss of energy of light as it travels across the universe. This idea is not new. It was proposed by a Swiss astronomer named Fritz Zwicky in 1929, and it is called the tired light theory. However, this theory was rejected by most scientists because it contradicted other observations and predictions of the standard model of cosmology. Gupta also claims that we can reconcile the tired light theory.
Yeah, see, I like the tired light theory because that, along with some other concepts that I've looked into, the idea that as light travels across the universe, obviously you could potentially just lose energy just doing that. We're talking millions and billions of years and light years. But gravity is everywhere, and you can't have a photon of light that starts 10, 12 billion light years away and travels across the universe through innumerable other galaxies and gravitational influences, and it doesn't like stretch that light. It doesn't make, warp or bend that light. And so that should definitely be a factor when you're talking about measuring redshift. Well, yeah, but the light can be affected by gravity as it travels across the universe and therefore throw off our estimation.
With the standard model, if we also allow for another possibility, that some of the fundamental physical rules that govern the interactions of particles change over time. This idea is also not new. It was suggested by a British physicist named Paul Dirac in 1937, and it is called the varying constants hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, some of the constants that we use to describe the strength of forces and the masses of particles are not really constant, but vary slowly over time. Gupta combines these two ideas and proposes a new model that can explain some of the puzzles and mysteries that we see in the universe. For example, his model can account for the existence of stars and galaxies that seem to be older than the universe itself by extending the time available for their formation and evolution. His model can also explain why
You
some
think
galaxies
simply finding
are much
stars
smaller
and
than we
galaxies
expect
that seem
by
older than the
reducing their
universe
mass
itself
due to
would
the
tell
loss
us
of
that
energy
the
of
universe
light.
is older.
Gupta's model also challenges another key assumption that we use to calculate the age of the universe, the cosmological constant. This is a term that represents the dark energy that drives the accelerated expansion of the universe. Gupta replaces this term with a new one that depends on the varying constants and shows that this can affect our estimate of the age of the universe significantly. By applying his model to various observations and data, Gupta arrives at a new value for the age of the universe, 27 billion years, with an uncertainty of about 40 million years. This value is consistent with his model, but not with our current theories and assumptions. So, who is right? And what does this mean
Well,
for
I
our
don't care if it's
understanding of the
consistent with our
cosmos?
current theories and assumptions. Does it match observed reality?
If Gupta's study is correct, and our universe is 27 billion years old, then this would have huge implications for our perspective and vision of the cosmos. It would mean that we have to revise and update many of our theories and models that are based on the assumption of a younger universe. It would also mean that we have to rethink some of the fundamental questions and mysteries that we have about the origin and fate of the universe. For example, one of the most intriguing questions in cosmology is, what happened before the Big Bang? If the Big Bang was the beginning of time and space, then it doesn't make sense to ask what was before it.
See, that's a whole other subject, but I actually really like that subject. I'm actually a fan of the idea that, I guess it would be the heat death of the universe. Is that the one? But essentially, I'm actually a fan of the idea that the universe does continue to expand and expand for trillions and trillions of years until everything dies, and it's basically just black holes left, and then the black holes eventually evaporate into Hawking radiation, and then essentially you have this big rip, and all of the energy that once was spread throughout the universe now just kind of explodes all at once into a new universe.
But if the Big
That's
Bang
a really
was not
like
the beginning,
oversimplified
but
version
just a
of it,
phase transition or a bounce in a larger and older universe, then it is possible that there was something before it. Maybe another universe, or a different state of matter and energy, maybe even a multiverse with many parallel universes. Another question is, what is the shape and size of the universe? If the universe is finite, then it has a boundary and an edge. But what is beyond that edge? And what is the shape of that boundary? Is it flat, curved, or something else? If the universe is infinite, then it has no boundary or edge. But how can we comprehend something that has no end or limit? And how can we measure something that has no scale or reference? A third question is, what is the destiny and fate of the universe? If the universe is expanding faster and faster due to dark energy, then it will eventually reach a state where everything will be so far apart that nothing will be visible or reachable. This is called the Big Rip scenario, where even atoms and molecules will be torn apart by the expansion of space. But if dark energy is not constant, but variable, as Gupta suggests, then maybe the expansion of the universe will slow down or reverse at some point. Maybe there will be a big crunch, where everything will collapse back into a singularity. Or maybe there will be a big bounce, where a new cycle of expansion and contraction will begin. These are just some of the questions and mysteries that we have about our universe, and that could be affected by Gupta's study. Of course, his study is not conclusive or definitive. It is just one possible alternative to our current understanding. It still needs to be tested and verified by more observations and experiments. It still needs to be
sometimes even the stuff you don't
other scientists
like
and
truly
experts.
understand is
still
still really fascinating. You're just kind of like,
by the
wow.
scientific community and the public. But whether Gupta's study is right or wrong, it shows us how amazing and fascinating our universe is. It shows us how much we have learned and discovered about it, but also how much we still don't know and understand. It shows us how curious and creative we are.
So I think that's the number one thing that we kind of lose a lot of times from academia in like science, any field of science really, but especially because it's what I'm interested in is space science, is we get these established quote unquote truths that nobody wants to challenge anymore. It takes too much work, and it's too like embedded into everything. But to do so is science. When you point a telescope or an instrument into the universe and you previously thought, okay, the universe is 13.8 billion years old because of this, this, and this. But then over time, you kind of consistently keep finding evidence that conflicts with that. that says, you know, well, this star seems to be older than the universe. That's really weird. And then you start looking deeper and deeper into the universe, and you're seeing things, structures like galaxies that are well developed in what we think is the early parts of the universe. You're like, well, that doesn't make sense because it takes time for, first of all, stars had to form, and then the stars had to clump together and form into these structures of galaxies, and that takes a lot of time. So it's either happening extremely fast, which basically nothing in the universe does, or the universe is older than we think it is to allow this to have occurred. So I think it was really cool that somebody actually decided, you know, this isn't making sense. We're getting this info from the James Webb Space Telescope that, you know, when observed reality challenges your theories, well, then you need to question your theories. Of course, this stuff bothers me right here. Big Bang debunked. No, I don't think that's what's going on there, but it gets people who don't know better to click on it. Has James Webb Space Telescope shown the universe is twice as old as we think? Looks like a lot of people jumped onto this subject. I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of a big deal. See, I love it. Terrifying discovery. New research puts you. How is that terrifying? What is terrifying about it? It's kind of like, in most ways, it really just doesn't affect us. Like, I mean, it's fascinating to know, and it's really cool, you know, if you're interested in it. But does the universe being twice as old as we think it could be, does that actually is that terrifying in some way? Like, oh my God, I'm scared to go to sleep tonight. The universe is double its age. They're not. SETI at the Galactic Core. So I think in future streams, I might actually, some of these longer videos about something like this could be interesting to sit and go over. But I think we might be getting kind of closer to the end here, so I don't know if I want to get like too caught up in something right now. But yeah, that may be it for tonight. Went over some gaming news and some interesting video about AI being used to detect cheating in online first-person shooters. That was actually pretty informative. I enjoyed that. I don't often take time to watch videos outside of my norm, and so I think the streaming could be a way to get more into those things. And then just kind of go through segments, like rolling from one subject to the other. And if I get a more active chat going, and there's a couple people here right now, but if I have a more active chat going and there's people to interact with and maybe different subjects come up, you know, things could definitely expand further down the road, like what goes on in the streams. So for anybody that's here or watches the video on demand later, appreciate you. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. We got a new subscriber tonight. That's pretty cool. I'm planning to do this probably about twice a week. Tonight, this was Thursday night / Friday morning. That might be a regular time, and then probably another time earlier in the week, Tuesday. So Tuesday may be the next time y'all see me on here, or tomorrow. It just depends. It's fun. And so if I have the energy to do it more often, I definitely will. But all right, guys, I'm gonna probably I'm gonna dip out there. So we'll see you next time. Good night, Traveler and Zage Wolf. I think you're both still here. Definitely see y'all next time.